All right. Welcome everyone to the podcast Dildo Dilemma, Humor in the Face of Trauma. I want you to imagine being paralyzed by fear because every step forward was blocked by doubt, insecurity, and abandonment issues. That was me from the age of 16 to 22. Then, bam, life sucker punched me, and I became a single mother to a son with a rare blood disorder. And I had two choices. I could stay down or I could fight back. And so I chose boxing, and through one punch, one competition, and facing one fear at a time, I learned how to punch back at life. And those lessons in the ring, such as protecting yourself, standing your ground, that laser focus, all became weapons for living life on my own terms, and if the need should arise, to protect myself and my son. So fast forward, after a number of years, I won the 2013 Light Welterweight Golden Glove Championship of the Year, won the Fab Female Health and Wellness Entrepreneur of the Year in 2017. I became a speaker, a coach, and living proof that when women reclaim their power, there's a rippling change through families, communities, and even the economy. And so, ladies that are listening to this, when you step into your power, you're worth trillions. Literally, when we invest in women and women in business, we literally boost the economy by trillions. And so, here's a little bit of reality. Only in Newfoundland, Canada, where I live, can you live near a place called Dildo, which is across the harbor from Spread Eagle. And we still have Jimmy Kimmel claiming that he's the mayor of our town, Dildo, without stepping foot onto the island of Newfoundland. We can call that a real dildo dilemma. And it sounds funny, but behind the laugh is this urgency because 1 in 3 women worldwide and 1 in 2 women in Newfoundland will face a form of violence or stalking in their lifetime. And so that's what Dildo Dilemma is about. It's about ending it with advocacy, awareness, action, and of course, a little bit of a humor to keep us standing strong. And so when women step into their power, we don't just change our lives, we change the world. And so we're going to meet today Kristen Franey, who is an anti-business coach for women who are done playing small. She's here for the entrepreneurs who've been oversold, undersupported, and fed the same cookie cutter formulas by an industry obsessed with a one-size-fits-all kind of success. She works with powerhouse women who've already tried it all, business coaches, mindset gurus, and systems that promise transformation but only left them exhausted and doubting themselves. And her trauma-informed approach flips the scripts. She coaches the woman, not the business, because not everyone starts from a level playing field, and forcing yourself into someone else's system just creates the same conditioning that kept you small in the first place. So welcome, Kristen. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Let us know a little bit about yourself here.
Gosh, well, I am so excited. I know we've had little chats before starting here, but hearing that, I have like goosebumps. I am so excited to dive into this. I've got a whole lot to say about Kimmel and the patriarchy, because isn't that just male entitlement claiming that he's the mayor? Not even freaking been there. But we digress. So a little bit passionate about helping women shift these patterns and conditioning that we've been in. Your story is so incredibly inspiring. And I hear parts of myself in that a little bit, like in that frozen in fear. And I think it's because it's so very common for so many of us, and we don't realize how frozen we are until shit hits the fan and we have to do something about it. And then we oftentimes, as women, start seeking things externally, right? Like everyone else knows the answers, everyone else knows better because of all of the conditioning, and we've been told, that our voice doesn't matter. And so I think that portion of the journey is common for so many women that are out there. And in my story, I was working in corporate, and I wasn't tremendously happy with it. My husband had an affair 6 weeks after we got married. And then I left the country a little while later, left the country, got a new job, was so excited, like this is a new fresh start. And I was in a not very aligned role in a not very aligned country. And I was terrified of leaving it. And it wasn't until my role was made redundant, that I had to figure out what my next step was. And I made a decision to not go back into corporate and to be a coach and to use what I know about business and what I know about coaching, to help women who are kind of escaping the matrix, and doing it outside of corporate and looking to give back and have their lives make an impact. Like you said, when we have money, women tend to invest back into our communities. And so giving women the freedom, flexibility, and ability to create businesses that support them, their lifestyles, their families, and overcome their generational traumas and patterns so that they can model new ways of being for the people in their communities that's my big passion and my big why.
Yeah, yeah, that's a huge why. That's really like absolutely thank you for sharing that. I'm sure like that's like there's quite a bit of stuff to unpack there on what you've just said. Um, the one thing that I want to note first off though is what moment made you realize exactly like the one size fits all kind of systems were a form of conditioning and even like trauma in disguise? Like that's really, really interesting when I was reading.
Yeah, I think, I mean, in fairness, a big part of that is through my own journey and seeing what power I was giving away and what solutions I was looking for people to solve for me. And that every time I entered into or came out of a program that hadn't solved the problem, I could look back and say, okay, I was looking for somebody to tell me exactly what to do. I was looking for somebody to solve essentially what is an inner problem, right? Like my lack of confidence or my lack of feeling like I had something worth sharing. Or, when I felt, even though I'd coached for over 20 years in my corporate role, I felt very much like I was the new person and I couldn't play the game with all of the new people or all the people online. And so I was looking for people to tell me exactly what to do to kind of get past those feelings of inadequacy.
Mm.
And quite often um, we are looking for simple solutions, but the simple solution isn't necessarily the easy solution or the thing that is getting to the root cause. And
Yeah.
it's very easy for us to continue to replicate patterns over and over and over, hoping for a different result. And it was probably after I'd gotten into, my sixth marketing program of some sort that I was like, oh, problem isn't that I don't know marketing. The problem is that I'm not confident in actually saying what it is that I want to say. And so it's having to do the inner work. And then once that happened, it doesn't really matter about the marketing so much.
That's a very powerful, powerful insight. Because everything that we want isn't out there, it's in here. Yeah. And I really like that you said that it's about being in alignment and, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, which Einstein said was the definition of insanity. But looking, when we're looking, I always say in one of my speeches, like when we're pointing out there at everybody else to make the differences and make the changes, we're forgetting that we're pointing three fingers back at us.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's really, really great. So you made that shift, um, and you had that aha moment. So how do you kind of shift that and see that happening with like, is there a way that you see like that quick kind of like pinpoint moment when you're working with your clients with their own unhealed trauma and showing up, and how do you coach them through that?
Yeah, that's a big question. And it's lots of layers that we go through. So one of the things when I first started seeing a lot of traction in my business. I was running a small cohort. It was sort of like an intensive, like, let's get your business launched, let's get it out there. It was during COVID. Everybody wanted to start a business, everybody was home. And I attracted really varied people from such different backgrounds. The thing that they had in common is they wanted to start a business that meant something to them, that was solving a problem that they could see. But I was working with former attorneys. I was working with people that had worked in retail, like part-time sales associates. Everybody had these different plans. And so the people that I was working with didn't fit into a box per se. They very much, the thing that was very similar is that they knew that they wanted to make a difference. They knew that they had really strong values and that they wanted to solve a problem that they had had at some point in their life.
Mhm.
But the places that they were coming from were really wildly different. And so I couldn't just say to them, okay, so here's what you do. You figure out who your client avatar is, and then you create a story to start speaking to them. I had to really dig into, okay, so what's your reason? What's your purpose? What's your why? Why do you want to have a business? And I'll be honest, when business gets hard, because it will, we always need to come back to that why. Um, and so learning through that along with my clients showed that there is a process to go through, and there is sort of a trajectory or a story arc, as it were, but each of the characters is different. Each of the scenarios is different.
Mhm.
So what I do with everyone that I coach is I make sure we are really clear on what is that why. And I do a lot of work on uncovering who their favorite self is. Not necessarily
Ooh.
self, because I think best self comes with a whole lot of judgment. Our best selves are really judgy if we're not living up to perfection. And as women, a lot of times we want to be perfect and good little girls. And your favorite self gets to be whoever the fuck she wants to be. Uh, And so if we're leaning into that favorite self, what does her work week look like? What does her work day look like? Who does she get to spend her time with? Who does she get to hang out with? Like, what's really important? And then we create businesses and strategies and structures that align with that favorite self. And so it's not necessarily about, like, so many of the programs that we get into that, teach us step one is grow your Facebook group. Step two is grow your email list. Step three is do lives or do speaking engagements, because not everyone wants to be speaking. Not everybody wants to be on Facebook. So it's more about, like, what is the thing that's important, and finding the aligned path to
Yeah.
amplifying your voice, and finding the confidence and what people feel confident in amplifying their voice around as
Wow.
well.
That's a huge shift. That's like what I call the deep work.
Mm-hmm.
That's the deep stuff, because it's like when you know what is in here and what you're authentic and what you are all about, you have a different vibration and a different, like, it is alignment, exactly what you said. And right now I'm taking a 12-week kind of course, not kind of, I am taking a 12-week course with Awaken Your Spiritual feminine self. So because I've been in such the masculine world for so long with the boxing and like the business, right? And it's like it's coming together with all the pieces that I've learned over the years, but coming together in more of a feminine aspect. And I love it. And that's something that we keep talking about is alignment, alignment, alignment.
Yeah,
I
and
think
I think
for women, it's huge.
it is huge. One of the things that I've recently really leaned into, and my clients are finding so much success when we look into, is their human design, which I don't know if you're familiar with, but it how we are wired as humans. So,
Yeah.
and each person has their own makeup. It's sort of, with astrology and such, that each person has these energetic tendencies. And when we also apply human design, it allows people to figure out who their authentic self is. And so one of my recent clients, I'll give an example. She is starting a business, and she's a financial coach. She's been working as a financial coach. She's really good at what she does. But she wants to have her own business doing it, not coaching for someone else. and
Yeah.
she's unsure of how to go about doing that. And everybody's telling her, oh, just set up an Instagram page. Oh, just do this. Oh, just do this. Oh, just post here. Oh, you should do lives. Oh, go on to podcasts. And all of the strategies that everyone is suggesting for her are great, but they didn't feel good for her because as a projector, she likes to be invited to do things. And all of these felt to her like she was inviting people to do things. So it felt backwards for her.
Right,
And we
right.
looked at what her type is and her design. She said, oh, so I don't have to make offers this way. I can say it like I'm doing these three things. If you're interested, let's have a conversation. And then they can invite me to work with them if they want. She's like, that's all it, she's like, that's the shift. It's like, that's the shift. Like, instead of inviting people into a particular thing, you just start talking about your thing and people will invite you. And she came away from that, like, with so many ideas, just having the permission to do it in a way that felt naturally aligned with what feels good for her.
Yeah.
And rather than trying to figure out how to do things in a way that felt like just friction all of the time, that she was starting to resent and second guess herself.
Yeah.
Um, but I think a lot of times, especially as women, because maybe it's just because I talk to women about this stuff so much more than I talk to men, but I don't think men necessarily struggle with some of these same identity types of questions that we do. Um,
Yeah.
but we often, like when we say it's aligned, we sometimes have moved so far from our North Pole or from our center that we, and from that true north, that we don't necessarily know what authentic is. And we're still trying to live up to what everyone else's expectations are of authentic. And so being able to peel back and give ourselves permission to say, no, this is who I am. This is the way that I operate. This is what feels good for me. Um, Without the judgment of what everyone else thinks is where that unlock comes in.
Yeah. And that takes a lot of courage. A lot of courage. And I know because I've been down that road through like I had a family member say when the first like year I started boxing because started competitive shortly, like as soon as I knew it was competitive, did that. I stepped right into it. It lit me up. And my family member was like, "Oh, Lita Mae, you can't do that. Boxing is not for girls. It's not, it's not blah 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 X, Y, and Z reason, pretty face, all of the things you hear." And fast forward again, about 15 years later, and then the same family member was like, "Oh, I'm so proud of you." It's like, so when you, even no matter what the outside elements are telling you you're supposed to be fit into this hole, and you feel like you're a square, you need to keep walking your squareness because eventually everyone will fit your square.
Exactly, exactly. But it can be really hard. Like you said, it does
Yes.
take a lot of courage because sometimes we maybe lose sight of the fact that we're a square. We start to think that we're an oval. We know that the circle's not right, but we're not quite aware of the squareness.
Yeah.
Squares are going to be so cool. Um, but it can be really hard to actually uncover all of that conditioning that we've picked up since we were kids, and sometimes some of the breakthroughs I've had to do with things that happened when I was 3 and 4 years old that I had like flashback memories of. It's like, and that's the thing that has informed how I'm engaging in the world. And it happened when I was 3, and now I'm a grown ass woman, and I'm still letting that and my perspective from my childhood inform how I'm engaging. And that was a huge breakthrough for me. And a lot of my clients, we do tend to go back and they'll have these big aha moments of,
Mhm.
oh, I've silenced my voice because Jimmy,
Yeah.
I'm gonna use Jimmy. He's going to be the bad kid, because Jimmy told me, he didn't like my pink shoes or something, so I stopped wearing pink for the rest of my life. But pink's actually my favorite color. I just didn't know it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
So bringing it a little bit to Jimmy, and we're going to talk about, we do a little bit of a humorous interlude right now because dildo is like the common name that most people think of when they think of Newfoundland, or if they're aware of the province of Newfoundland. So Newfoundland is a island, and we're the most eastern province in Canada. And the island has just over 500,000 people. We have our own time zone, Newfoundland and Labrador. Okay. But the most humorous part of since I've lived here is that in 2022, there was a iceberg that went viral in 2022 because it was taken a drone photo was taken by a photographer who is originally from Dildo. He posted the picture on Instagram, and poof, within 24 hours, the picture went viral and it got nicknamed the Dicky Berg because it looked like a penis. So this is a very, very famous moment of humorous history. But less known fact was at the same time, there was another iceberg which was just located outside my house where I live in the bay. And this iceberg was in the shape of fallopian tubes. And both the Dickieberg and Miss Fallopian Tubes were located in the bay where I live is Conception Bay North. So
Get
to bring it back to, you can't make this shit up. And so to bring it back to like how funny Newfoundland is and just the way things unfold, right? So we have Dildo, which is across the harbor from Spread Eagle, which is just down from where the Dickieberg was located, which was near Miss Fallopian Tubes, all located in Conception Bay North.
That's brilliant. There's
That's
something
Mother Nature.
exactly happening. You're like, I saw a picture. You're probably better at, yeah, it's probably more realistic than what most teenage boys are being taught about women's anatomy.
Oh my. Yes, yeah.
There must be something energetic that's happening at those ley lines or something. I'd be curious.
It could be. There's always really, really funny things and like the town names. Like this is I say to everybody, if you want to visit to Newfoundland, you understand that we are like the European part of Canada. And you don't the nicest months to come are between June and September, but you can come further than that and just beautiful scenery because there's just so many layers of history here and scenery and humorism. And everybody wants to talk, or what we say, our terms are yarn. You want to just talk, you're having a like going on and on, you're having a yarn. So we're gonna bring it back to women and the kind of hustle culture that we have been bombarded with women in business, right? Like, which has created a sense of burnout and shame. I know I've experienced that over my career, and I've become very more conscious about making sure that doesn't happen anymore. So what does it look like for you to build for a woman who you actually are rather than who you're taught to be? Like I know you said a little bit about the your get clear on your why and who your favorite her is and like talking about your human design. Is there anything more that you work with women to uncover that?
Yeah, a lot of it is through like the individual one-to-one coaching. So, and just asking questions to co-create ways with them that feel doable. And a lot of it has to do with like our nervous system regulation, or letting our nervous system see that taking this big step is not terrifying, so that we can get out of the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response that we're in, and we can start seeing momentum in business without having to do a million things. So a lot of the people that work with me have already been in coaching of some sort. They've already tried a bunch of different programs, and it's just not, you're not getting quite as much traction as they would like, or they're ready to take their business to another level and they're burnt out. Like what got them to where they are is required a whole lot of work, and they don't want to keep doing that work, but they're afraid to let go of some of it. They thought that they would get to a certain level, they would have the six figures, and it would not slow down in business, but like their workload would slow down. And if anything, it's feeling the opposite because they don't have systems in place or they're afraid to let go. And so we look at like what's the underlying root of what it is that's happening? Where do they want to get to? And what is the next best step for them to get there that is not going to be overwhelming?
Mhm.
Um, one of my clients recently she was also a financial coach. She was very successful with her financial coaching, but she also wanted to do lifestyle and nutrition coaching for busy moms. And
Okay.
she knew what it had taken to get her financial coaching business to where it was. And while she had this passion for working with busy moms, she was afraid of having to put that amount of work and effort in that she had done at the beginning of her financial coaching. And we were able to peel back and realize that so much of what had felt busy then was because she was unsure of herself and she was trying so many different things, and she was trying to build an audience and trying to network, trying to be in new places. But with her new business and her new passion, she already had a lot of that established. And so she could stop being so worried about it having to look the way that her other business had looked 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And so it was easier for her to see that all she had to do was make some invitations to people. It was easy for her to see that she already had her offer. She already had, we plotted out what a course was, but she came in thinking, this is overwhelming. I don't know what to do. And within a few sessions, she's like, oh no, I do know exactly what to do. And it doesn't have to be overwhelming. And these are the steps that I can take in a logical order that is going to fit into her life. Um,
Yeah.
because she's a busy mom. She's got another job and she's running this on the side as her passion, hoping, the objective is to one day seg away from the financial coaching and working more in the nutrition space.
Mhm.
Um, but also she just, she didn't want to be overwhelmed. She wanted to still love her life and have her lifestyle and be able to do the thing that she was passionate about. So
Yeah.
it's very much about understanding what somebody wants their life to look and feel like, and then creating what is realistic. And because I'm looking at it from a bird's eye view and I'm not in the thick of it, it's easier for me to help them parse out what is really important. And I
Yes.
don't have the same emotional attachment to things. So I'm able to really reflect back and dig into, or just reflect back what it is that is really coming forward without all of the emotional attachment to it.
And that you've made a really good point. Like you can look at it from a bird's eye view. And that's what I always say, even though I'm a coach, like I've had coaches for years, like it's important to always, because you want to grow, you want to learn, you each time you grow and you discover a new layer of yourself and leveling up, you have to have somebody who helps look at things from a bird's eye view. So that's really
Mhm.
awesome. Thank you for pointing that out. So
Yeah.
we talk about humor in the face of trauma on this show, because sometimes really humor is what can save us, especially when we're going through massive amounts of pain that trauma can put upon us. So how has humor or sarcasm played a role in your healing journey or helping your clients reclaim their power?
Yeah. Well, I think I don't take anything too seriously. And
Yeah.
it's important to, like, we make light of what's happening. We joke about things that are coming up. One of my clients that was actually in her feedback form, was that she could show up and we laughed as much as we cried. Um, and I think it's important, not when, like you said, when we're uncovering all of the trauma, it's it's about like bringing a lightness to it and an acceptance of, yeah, this is it, but also let's move on from it. Where are the things that we can find humor in without dismissing or diminishing or setting it aside, but also we've we've got to enjoy our life, and it's not about just sitting in the shit all the time. It's about looking for what are we doing to have fun? What are we doing to bring joy in? We send memes back and forth, it's like,
You're a mean girl.
yeah,
Okay.
I swear a lot in my class.
Yes. Oh,
Like,
good.
none of it is, it's very serious and important and life-changing work that we're doing, but we've got to have fun while we're doing it.
Mhm.
And I'm in cut-off denim shorts and bare feet today. I have on a fancy top up top. It's but I don't take myself too seriously, and I attract clients who get that and want that like lightness of being. And I think if somebody wants somebody who is super buttoned down and serious, then they're just not going to have aligned with me because I don't take any of myself too seriously.
No, I
I'm not doing
you say that. Yeah. I always say, like, why do we have to take life so serious? None of us are getting out of this alive. So, like, oh, that's great. I love it. I love it. That's absolutely awesome. So
it.
speaking of not so serious, we're gonna end with the joke here and then let everyone know where they can find you and what you've got going on coming up. But first, my joke of the day is question. And if you know the answer, feel free to chime in and I'll pause a little bit for those listeners. So if you can think, roll around the answer in your head. Why did the dildo start a podcast? Any guesses?
No kisses. I'm a little afraid.
Because it wanted to give people something to really tune in to.
Oh.
Wah, wah, wah. Okay. I'm working on my more comedic skills to make it roll off the tongue, but
Now
I'll
you're up there with Kimmel. It's all good. That's Kimmel. He's on my hit list now.
Oh. So Kristen, where can everybody find you and what do you have coming up?
Yep. Easiest place for people to find me right now is on Instagram. Really easy to find me. It's Kristen.Franey. My website is on its way out. Right now, I have a free group that is launching to talk about, we're going through human design transits and what's happening in the collective and how we can parlay that into social activism because there's a lot of stuff happening in the world at the minute. And I have an upcoming one-to-one offer that is launching next week, and then some workshops that are coming up in November. And all of that will be available on Instagram.
Amazing, amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us here today. I really appreciate it. And when you said about rebranding, I've just launched my new website, punchpositive.com. So I've put everything juicy that I've experienced and everything. It's all into a very compact punch positive 12-week program, but everything is there and my speaking and all that is there as well. So I totally understand. It takes a little bit, but we got to get out there and do it because we're here to help and elevate the world. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, this has been so much fun. Really enjoyed conversation with you. This is good. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm super happy. Thank you.